All right. Welcome, ESA audience. My name is Kenneth Ellington. For today's session, we're going to have two of my staff on board, Nigel, who is my threat intelligence instructor, and then Sophia, who is my cybersecurity program manager for my staff and recruiting side. So for today's topic, we're going to be covering threat intelligence. We did an earlier session earlier in the year about this, but I've been getting asked a lot of different questions as to specifically what should you study, like an actual exact path for it. So we're actually going to cover in detail like what to do, salaries, amount, job expectations, places to actually go to actually get jobs like this, and other questions you guys may have for it. Any questions you guys may have, then drop them inside of the chat for us. Awesome. So, I guess a quick overview, Nigel, if you could explain to the audience what threat intelligence actually is, so I have a better understanding as to what to expect.
Yeah, threat intelligence is data that's been analyzed, right? So think of any kind of intelligence that can better help proactive defensive measures, depending on who the stakeholder in the business is. So from a high level, super high level, there's like three types of intelligence. You have strategic, operational, and tactical. I would say a tactical type of audience would be, think about your incident responders, think about your red team. They're focusing on intelligence from threat actors from a behavioral standpoint or TTPs. An operational standpoint would think your stakeholders or your audience would be like the SOC or your vulnerability management team. And intelligence for that would look like IOCs or indications of compromise. Think about zero-day vulnerabilities or CVEs. And then your strategic intelligence, think of your audience as your leadership, right? They're looking, intelligence for them would be more of like, what's going to keep me up at night? What is relevant to your organization? And what kind of intelligence that you can better equip your leaders with to make better decisions, right? So at a high level, that's what intelligence is. And that all comes from data, right? So once we get that data, we analyze it in different frameworks, and we'll probably get into that. But once we analyze it and make sure it's relevant to the organization, that's what turns it into intelligence.
Gotcha. A very good explanation. My next question would be, I get asked this quite often, is would it be an entry-level position, or would you say this is more mid to senior level normally?
I would say it depends, honestly. Typically, I would say it's a more mid to senior level role, but depending on your background and what kind of transferable skills you may have, you could get into a threat intelligence role, right? Depends on your background, transferable skills, but typically it's a specialized role in cybersecurity. Like a SOC analyst is more broad, more general. Then when you go into threat intel, you specialize because it's very specific. Like your role and what you do is very specific. From a SOC analyst or vulnerability management, you could kind of do many things, right? And there's many things you can do with threat intel as well, but like in the grand scheme of things, you're analyzing data.
Okay, I would say the same thing, right? It is harder to get inside the type of role if you've never worked inside the field, right? So I wouldn't have that as my 100% expectation to get like landed cybersecurity threat intelligence role straight out of like college, for example. But it is possible, right? Everyone's journey will be different in that regard, which is what we'll cover in a second. It's like what to actually expect from it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually pull up one of the things I was looking at. So one of the questions I can ask this as well is, how much money can I make inside this role? That's what everyone cares about, is money. For people always ask me, so let me share my screen.
Yeah. So I would say, I'll break it down. Like if you were to have, let's say you're a cyber threat intelligence analyst, 1 to 3 years, I would typically say on average, you're in the 80 to like 90-ish range. I see you just pulled something up. What is this? 102. Oh, yeah, Texas. So yeah, depending on your where you're located as well, that will change some things. But typically, I would say starting off minimum like 80 for threat intel, and on the high range with like I'm saying 1 to 2 years of experience, or 0 to 2 years of experience. Starting at 80, getting to like or 70-ish to 90. Now, let's say you come in with some skills, right? You have maybe a cyber background and like a SOC analyst, or you come from a different domain of security, and you have some skills that will translate into the threat intel role where you're a mid to senior level role. I would say from there, you're looking at like 100K to like 122, 130. I'll say that, right? That's a mid junior level. If you're a senior level threat intel analyst, you should be looking at like 130 to 150-ish as a senior threat intel analyst.
Yeah. So I pulled up ZipRecruiter. These are rates based off of Texas because I live in Dallas, right? It also going to depend on where you currently live, right? For how much you would make, right? If you live in Topeka, Kansas, you probably won't make as much money as if you live in San Francisco, right? That's just about it, right? Because cost of living is different. Also note, threat intelligence is very, very important for military purposes as well. So a lot of government contracting firms and military installations need threat intelligence people, right? There's one avenue a lot of people come from or try to get set up for threat intelligence, right? So Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Booz Allen Hamilton, Leidos, they need a lot of threat intelligence people. Especially people in general, right? That's one avenue you can try to go inside of. Then bring me toward my other topic, which is kind of combined for salary amounts, right? The people will probably ask you a lot, Nigel, like, hey, how much can I make? You'll say, well, it's going to depend. Like, okay. Yeah. And then someone might tell me, hey, I live in Kansas. I'm like, all right. I'm like, it might be a little bit hard for you to try to find a job, right? I'm being honest with you, right?
Yeah.
Compared to someone who lives like in Dallas, for example, or you live like in New York City, right?
Washington, D.C.
Yeah. So there are, again, it's depending on what sector you want to work in. So let's say, for example, someone wants to do threat intelligence and they're okay to move, right? They're open to doing that, right? First off, good idea, right? That opens up a lot more opportunities for you if you're willing to move, right? Second thing, I would tell them, like, or ask them, where are you comfortable living? They might say, all right, I'm not too sure. And I'm asking you, well, what do you think? And I'll tell them, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell them to list 3 places that they'll be okay with living and then aim for jobs inside of that, right? So places that they might want to try to target, depending on whether they want to live for climate purposes or family purposes, right? Might be DMV area, because again, a lot of roles for just government contracting overall for cybersecurity, right? Which is one area. Another area might be, again, Dallas, Fort Worth, because there's a lot of jobs here as well. I know I live here. And then we'll go over West Coast, which may mean either like Seattle or San Francisco, right? Again, depending on like what they want to do. So depending on what your age is, do you have family and kids, right? What are your end goals, right? But there'll be places that I might target to try to land a cybersecurity role in general, especially for threat intelligence. So just being open-minded in that regard will help you out. Again, the rates will vary. For example, if I change this to probably, can I change it? If I did New York City, for example, it's going to probably give me a different rate. All right, it won't be much higher. So allocation. See, all right, it's going to be 20 or 20K higher, which is probably a lot higher, honestly, because this is Manhattan. And getting like a 1-bedroom apartment is like $5,000. So
yep.
Yeah, that's
someone in the chat said Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, probably pretty decent out there too.
Yeah. So for example, if you put in, if I can spell, all right, for example, this is my roughly like this, roughly what you'd make in like in Texas, right? So similar cost of living, right? So just understand like where you want to live and understand how much you might be able to make from that, right? And that will help you on your journey in that regard from it. 2 things we just covered, right? What exactly is threat intelligence? And then how much you can make from it, piggybacking off of that, where you should actually live for it, right? So again, I mean, very often for people that live in smaller markets, it'll be harder for you to land a role with that. Just because if you live like in Nebraska or in Iowa, for example, there's just not as many jobs out there for technology as there is on larger metro areas. Um, as an overall piece of advice, if you're in your probably early to mid 20s, Scott Galloway says this a lot too. Move towards a larger city because you're playing tenants with people that are serious about it, for example, right? So you're going to have to raise your level of expectations and skill set compared to if you live in a very small market and no one's really serious about their career. Who you hang around, who you hang around is very important. As Nigel, you can probably speak towards that as well, right?
Your network is your network. Yeah. So if you want to get around, if you want to get a high paying job or be in the area or have an opportunity, you need to make sure you're in the vicinity of that, right? That'll help your chances and your opportunities.
Yeah, I try to tell people most jobs are filled on the back end. They don't ever get posted. All right. So having a very strong network and being able to actually meet and talk to people is extremely important. It's funny, Nigel. I people that like reach out towards me that live like in NYC, and like, man, like Nigel, I can't find anybody. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's like 30 million people within like a 20 square mile of you. I'm like,
yeah,
what are you talking about? Right? I mean,
I would say they would need to work on their networking skills.
Yeah. Because I mean, honestly, it's how you want to like do it, right? If you live like in New York City, right? Almost every single major corporation on the planet has an office there, right? So what you can do is you can literally just during your lunch break, just go towards where the headquarters is, and go towards like a local restaurant and just sit down and talk to people. Okay, everyone's all gonna go inside of there, right? And different strategies you can do for that. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for you guys out there. It's just knowing how to actually leverage and use that. It's the biggest thing I'll tell you. And then Sophie, from your perspective, from our side, right? What are some things you look for inside of candidates from that regard?
Regards to their location or in threat intelligence specifically?
Let's start with location first.
So with location, it really depends on what our client's demand is. So usually our clients are looking for candidates in major cities or in metropolitan complexes. So it is true that the demand is higher in strategic locations. So you kind of have to look for relocation, or if you're potentially looking to relocate because of unemployment, it's always important to ask that recruiter or that HR manager if there's relocation services and assistance. And that's kind of from my perspective. I'm actually dealing with someone right now who might need some relocation assistance, and I do have to get that information. So in regard to relocation, I'd just say if you're really looking to get on the market, start in a high, on a metropolitan complex that has like a high movement in whatever you are looking to pursue, because it's super valuable. And definitely start networking there and connect with people in your city, even if it's random on LinkedIn. Just reach out, because you'll never know where that got you.
And then for my second question from that would be, are certain firms, from your experience, from I guess our client side, are certain firms more flexible than others on certain roles with being in hybrid or remote for the right candidate, compared to like more senior, more junior?
Yeah, so definitely for more senior roles, I've seen more flexibility on our clients' end, and for roles that are in high demand. So with security clearances, or with now I have some roles that require NATO secret clearance. So those roles that are in a lot of higher demand, or that people are already booked and busy in, really have more flexibility because they need you. They're people are bringing so much more onto the table with these special requirements. So that's kind of what I've seen on my experience. But I know that there are some companies that are definitely looking to relocate you if you are the right candidate. And there are recruiters willing to go that extra mile if you are that right candidate. So I always ask for, those questions about relocation, because I have some very great candidates and they're just not in the right city. And I always try, to put in that extra work for them and, have that communication with our client, because it's the deliverance of that person is so much more valuable, than that person that's probably there and isn't as qualified. So definitely don't be afraid to negotiate a relocation, to ask for that relocation assistance, or for those relocation policies to that, metro area that you want to be in.
Yeah, my piece of advice to that would be, and I tell Nigel all this all the time, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So if you want something, just ask for it. Worst thing they can do is tell you no, right? So if you want to try to get a relocation bonus, then just ask them, right? If they really want you, a lot of times they'll capitulate with that, so they're able to actually get you on the team. Just keep that in mind as well. And then for you, Nigel, what will be your piece of advice for someone that's more junior that says, I only take a remote role, right? They're trying to set the field. So what you tell them?
I would say it just depends on circumstance, right? If you believe you have the leverage to demand that kind of role, then I would do that. I think how maybe the market is right now, that may be a little bit more difficult, but it's not obtainable. Like, you could do it. When I was first getting into the role, I was open, but luckily my role was fully remote when I first got into threat intel. I actually was vulnerability management and threat intel, and then I specialized down and became the SME, which is a subject matter expert in threat intel. But my role initially was remote, and I've been remote since. So, if, like I said, if you have the leverage, if you have the high demand skills for that specific role, you may be able to warrant that, fully remote role. But if you're just looking to get into the field, if it's possible, if you can have that flexibility to do like a hybrid or move to that city, and it makes sense, I would do that as well. I just know when I first got in, I was wherever. It could be, I don't know, Alaska. I probably would have took it.
Okay.
I just needed a foot in the door, man. That's all I needed.
I don't blame you. I was want to move towards Wisconsin too, which I did not want to move there after college. But I had an interview for Epic for cybersecurity engineer position, but the interview was like in December, like in Madison, Wisconsin. It was like I think 10 degrees with like 4 feet of snow outside. And I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I'll do it if I have to. So right, always just another piece of unwanted advice for me, right, from old man Kenneth would be willing to do what others are not willing to do, right? Because if someone's willing to move towards a location that isn't the most desirable and you're not, that person probably going to get the job and the salary that you want, all right? That's just the reality of it. So do understand that there's a cost towards everything, right? It's just for you to understand what the cost is, and if you're willing to make a sacrifice and payment for it. And if you're not, that's fine. Just don't complain when you can't get it. All right. I don't walk in a BMW dealership and say, why is the car $80,000, right? And this doesn't make any sense. That's the price that they set. So if I want it, I have to pay that. If I don't, then I just walk out and leave and go somewhere else. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Just try to get people to understand that aspect of it. That's how every field is, right? We're thankful and we're blessed that we have the chance to actually be remote for a lot of our jobs. Most of the fields don't have the opportunity, right? Some people tell me this, I'm like, this is one of the fields that's the case. Most of their jobs you have to be on site, all right, or you have to move. For example, Nigel, if I want to be a fisherman and I live like in Wyoming, I can't say I want to be remote. It doesn't make any sense. I'll have to move. It's the reality of it, all right.
100%.
So
100%.
that's what I'll tell you. Let me see. Oh, we have questions. So Maya Lee I put the question, who here is willing to move for the right role? So Maya, yeah, my question to you would be, what type of roles are you looking to get then within cybersecurity? You can drop your questions at the chat.
Yes. I urge, sorry, not to cut your wisdom, Kenneth, but I urge everyone to Why you laugh? I need to trademark that. But I urge anyone that's currently watching right now, ask questions, man. Closed mouths will get fed. You got professionals on the line. There's no dumb questions except if you don't ask any and you have professionals in front of you. That was something I did very often when I was looking to get into the field. I was asking questions, and it turns out they were good questions that, inevitably got me into the field. So, go ahead.
Very well said, Nigel.
I just wanted to comment on my lead that said I'm in DC, but for the right role, I would be willing. DC is really attractive right now for cybersecurity in any role. I know there's, I believe, some headquarters in Crystal City. Is that I don't want to say something incorrect, but I believe it was some Amazon, or it was another.
Yeah, I think Amazon.
Yeah, so that's definitely near the DC area. You have all these government agencies that are kind of making it big right now. So I was in DC for a while as well. It was really good. So I definitely see some potential there in the role that you want, and a lot of networking. You'd be surprised where that could get you in the DC area. So
absolutely. And then Veronica puts, I'm definitely willing to move for the right role. I'm in the DFW area and I own a home, so the role definitely has to be right for me. Veronica, I'm also in the DFW area as well. I'm actually going towards 2 events this week. One tomorrow for WorldSec in Frisco, then another Cisco event in Frisco Thursday. Especially for my DFW folks, there's a lot of, I was surprised. There's a lot of cybersecurity events here. Like a lot. I imagine there's like probably dozens every single week, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of, I went towards one a month ago, which was at the Star, which is the Cowboys fancy facility in Frisco. Like the VP for Palo Alto's Unit 42 was there for threat intelligence. Like he was, he was just there having lunch or having dinner, and I got to talk towards him. So again, there's a lot of really cool people that come out towards these events, right? It's like the same people too. So if you come out enough, you get to know you on a first name basis. So I would highly suggest you guys to go to those type of events. A lot of them are free, and then a lot of them are fancy restaurants. So you get the food for free too. So that doesn't hurt. So definitely would highly suggest that if you're able to go towards these type of events, to actually go towards these events. You guys want the links towards them? You guys want to meet me there? Just let me know. Again, I'll be at 1 in Frisco Tuesday and Thursday. So definitely go towards those events. And then Octavia Hall. Would you use such a sites as TryHack Me to help me get roles if you lack experience? So I have a very big pet peeve with TryHack Me and Hack the Box. They are good if you have never touched cybersecurity topics at all, right? In my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nigel, they're very hand-holdy. So there's a lot of training wheels on them. So people will get stuck on that hedonic treadmill, just doing the same things over and over again and not actually expanding their mindset from that, which can hurt them if they actually try to get a job, right? So I would say if you Octavia, if you've never touched technology at all in your life before, then that's a good start. If you have any amount of experience, then to do it for a little bit and to move on towards a more trying platform or just to build stuff out yourself. All right. And then if you have questions about that, you can ask me here or we can talk in DMs after the call. Nigel, anything else?
Yeah, that was actually a great synopsis of that. Yeah, if you don't, like, let's say you're not familiar with like vulnerability management or Splunk or things like that, and TryHack Me they have a lot of modules. I think they cover pretty much everything in that platform, but it is very hold your hand, right? If you get it wrong, they'll guide you towards the right answer. But the platform itself does emulate real world scenarios very well, I believe. And I think it's for someone who doesn't have experience in, let's say, that specific tool set or that specific, domain or attack path or whatever it may be, it's a good platform. But I started off with TryHackMe. TryHackMe gave me a really good foundation on a lot of different things in security, pretty much touching all the domains, red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming, data, cloud security, all of that. But from there, I started to build my own hands-on labs. I built my own portfolio and kind of used what the platform kind of guided me through and started to do it on my own. So I think it's definitely a good place to start, but I wouldn't like garner all my skills and TryHackMe. I would like take that information and do it on my own and build something unique, or maybe what's relevant that's going on in the industry or something like that.
I'd agree. Octavia also puts, well, what platform do you believe is more trying? Well, shameless plug, our platform, which I'm not disappointed at all. So for how we do it, right? Everything we do for our platform for ECA is hands-on and we're tailored towards your specific learning paths. So my big thing is I hate cookie cutter, doesn't help anybody out. Everyone has their own wants, desires, and needs for their own career paths, right? So we tailor our program path towards whatever you guys may actually need, right? So if someone's goal is to do threat intelligence or threat hunting, I may send them to Nigel or send them to me. If someone's goal is to be a sales engineer, we have people that do that as well, like Jordan, right? So we're pretty robust in that regard for it, right? So it's just
we have some other questions over here on the top. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Let's see. All forgiven, Sophie. All right. Maya Lee puts, looking to go into security automation, which is something that I do and we teach as well. That definitely is a good path. We do it through SOAR automation and instant response. That's a really cool area to get inside of. Again, you have questions, Maya, just feel free to DM me or DM Nigel or Sophie and get you settled away and helped out. Veronica puts, do you have several certifications? It seems that more certs are the answer. I have a couple of certs and master's degree. Certs are not the end all be all, right? My thing is certs will get you inside of the door, right? But if you don't know how to actually do the work, then it doesn't really matter, honestly, right? So certs are helpful in that regard. But being able to actually do the technical work, whatever job you're doing. And then the second part on this is being able to actually explain what you're doing and sound confident inside your answers, right? Because one thing to be able to do work, to do the work, but if you don't sound confident in what you're doing, then no one's going to believe you, right? So having that confidence in explaining your answers and actually breaking down complex topics is super important, right? Which again is something that we teach our students to make sure they actually have those areas down. So normally the three areas that we cover: one is technical hard skills, one is soft skills, if they're one is branding and marketing, right? Technical hard skills, think of scripting, programming, building detection rules, building out Splunk environments. Those are technical hard skills. Soft skill, for example, is translating like what I just said into actual English so someone that's not technical can actually understand what you're talking about. And then brand and marketing is like what I do on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, for example. Broadcasting towards the wider world so people know like who I am and what I do at a glance, right? For example, like Nigel is a threat intelligence person. There shouldn't be any guess as to, Nigel in cybersecurity, does he work as a truck driver? No, there's no guesswork as to what he does, right? To be very clear and concise, right? So framing your strategy in that regard is much more beneficial than to just like try to grab like a bunch of random certs, in my personal opinion. Nigel, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. I agree. Certifications are good for like, let's say from even an HR recruiter standpoint. A lot of the job descriptions may have certifications that they would be looking for, not requirements, but it would be good. So that'll kind of get you through the ATS system and help you with that. But I think if you can figure out exactly what you want to do in cybersecurity and if there's certifications for that specific thing, then you continue to you go after those and specialize. Don't get like a whole bunch of certs that are like irrelevant to what you would be doing, I guess. But I didn't have any certifications. I had the CompTIA Security Plus, which is like the universal kind of, not entry level cert, but it's a good foundational cert that'll at the very least teach you the lingo of security, and you'll understand a lot of the concepts of security through that certification. And then I'm also under the that you don't even necessarily need to take the pay for the certification. Just learn the information. Because in an interview, no hiring manager is going to be like, so when you took the CompTIA Security Plus, what did you do for question 8? Or what, you're not going to ask you stuff like that. The certification, like, they're not even going to bring it up. I promise you, they're not even going to bring up your cert. They're not. But the information that you learned from the cert is what's important. And can you apply it? Can you talk about it? So if someone asks you, what would you do in this scenario for incident response or SOC analyst, or we get this vulnerability, do you know how to respond in that scenario? Interviews are scenario based, right? They're not, what did you pick from ABC on your cert? So make sure you're learning the information and not memorizing things to pass a test that you paid $300 for to look good on your resume.
I want to follow up on Nigel with that. We have a application heavy role, like some Splunk ones we have right now. I always ask more on the general end to see if this person will give me an example, to see if they'll, tell me about this at-home environment that they have, or this, this project that they've done, or any type of experience, and actually set out this scenario, like Nigel said, for me, instead of just like letting me know that they have this certification and they're qualified because they have this certification. So definitely always, engage in what you're learning instead of just learning it, and always have good human conversation with that recruiter and with that person. Because me personally, I do phone screenings. So I don't get to actually see these people most of the time that I'm talking to. And I really engage in this conversation to see if they're qualified or not. So I hope that helps everyone to kind of understand that certifications can really set a base for you, but you have to do the other 50% of the work, which is actually understanding and applying what you're learning.
100%.
And then let me see if your question.
There's also a question on, I don't know if you got the YouTube chat pulled up, Kenneth, but I had on YouTube and I saw a question in there.
Yep, let's see. Mashawn put, just wanted to give me if this one covered, but what are the biggest misconceptions people have about threat intelligence roles?
The biggest misconceptions, I would say the biggest one is that you need like a clearance or a government background. Like when people think and hear about intelligence, they think, the 3-letter agencies and things of that nature. But you really don't need a clearance, depending on what sector you're in, the role, things of that information, what you're dealing with. But I'll say that's probably one of the biggest ones. The other one I would say is that all threat intelligence roles are the same. There's different roles in threat intel, just like there is in like SOC, engineering things, or you have a threat detection engineer. You may have like a software engineer. You may have the detection engineer. So in CTI, there's the same thing, right? You have analysts that do campaign tracking, right? So they're tracking specific, what we call APT groups, advanced persistent threats. So think like APT 41 or APT 28. These are like China-based adversaries. Or another role in threat intel may be a malware threat intel analyst. So you're basically analyzing different malware strains, things of that nature, and seeing how you can, disseminate that information to a SOC. So don't think that intel is like we all just do the same thing. Yes, we all analyze data and provide intelligence to different stakeholders, but there's different kind of other sectors in threat intel as well. So no, not everyone comes from a government background, and we don't all do the same thing.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, we're back to normal. Yeah. Very well said. Same thing for like detection engineering or threat hunting. Those are two different areas, right? They're not the same thing. They shouldn't be the same thing. Firms don't always listen towards me though, but sort of a different day. Let me see. I need to put other questions as well. So I want to hit on something that's been said as well. So should you have a home lab, right? I would definitely say yes. So what I've done, Nigel, normally when I do interviews, what I do is I show off my production environment that I have towards my high managers, and they always love it, right? Because showing is better than telling, right? I tend to over prepare for everything that I do. Probably it's a good habit, professionally, not personally. That's a different day. So I like to prepare for everything that I do, right? So I'll have multiple slide decks open for different things like Microsoft Sentinel, Splunk SOAR, that I'll cover for my interview. So I'll prepare the entire slide deck and presentation. I'll have multiple roadmaps mapped out towards their own environments and like things I might want to work on if I was able to get hired, right? And think of it like this, right? So let's say Nigel was looking to hire a senior or principal level threat intelligence person. This job total comp pays $200K, right? Very, very good amount, right? Fully remote too, right? The way I look at it is if I do these certain things, he will hand me a check for $200K. That's basically what he's going to do. That is what's going to happen, right? So if you get an interview, treat it as such, right? Put in the amount of work and prepare like if you do everything you're supposed to do, someone will hand you a check for whatever amount that job pays, 150,000, 200,000, quarter mil, 300,000, half mil, whatever the amount is, right? And treat it as such. Most people that I see do not do that, right? So have that type of focus and have that type of dedication, right? So for me, I'll prepare multiple environments. I have like 5 different environments I will show people just to showcase like what I can do. Terraform automation, SOAR automation, Splunk Enterprise Security, Security Essentials, Microsoft Sentinel, right? I'll show them all of that, right? I'll have documentation, whiteboards that I wrote, presentations that I've done, right? Documentation for queries that I have for detection engineering, right? And they'll get to see how much I've done and how serious I am about this interview, right? Because again, Nigel, even interview boards, most people don't ever do that. They don't ever do that, right? They just talk. They don't ever actually show like what they do. Mm-hmm. So if you can do that, then your chances of actually landing a job increase tremendously. Most people will not do that.
Great. Agreed. And also just try to turn the interview into a conversation. I know nerds and, I think the biggest thing to remember during an interview is that you're also interviewing them, right? You want to make sure that you're a good fit. So that'll kind of take off some of the pressure on yourself as you're just waiting to get bombarded by questions. But if you're able to like Kenneth does, come prepared and you may show them something that they probably weren't expecting, that may garner questions from them to ask you that you are comfortable in and you can start talking about, right? And then once you do that, you turn into a conversation and you're not just sitting there waiting for them to ask you more questions. It works out a lot better for you in that outcome. And then also just just trust in yourself, have the confidence. You want this company to know that you have the skill set to do the job that they're posting about. Confidence is going to be very big on that, right? You can only fake it for so long, but if you go into the interview and you turn to conversation, you guys are, you and the recruiter going back and forth, it gets a lot more easier, a lot more calm, and you'll be able to succeed, I believe, better in that way.
Yeah, another thing, and me and Sophie can talk towards this. What our clients want is when they're looking for candidates and when they're interviewing you, they want to know like what can you actually do, all right? And people will just like recite off their resume, and I don't tell people this, but I think this, right? I'm not illiterate. I can read your resume, right? Actually tell me like what can you actually do? If I dropped you in this client site, I can 5 seconds, right? What could you have to do from day one, right? What tangible skills do you actually have? Tell me that. Explain the things you've actually done with that, right? Those are things they actually want to hear and actually want to know, right? So if your expertise is scripting with Python and building automations, then talk towards that, right? Actually explain some of the projects you worked on and how they work in detail from that regard, right? That's probably the biggest thing that we try to train our students on. So they have the chance to actually understand how to actually interview and how to actually talk with professionals in that regard and looking for jobs.
Yeah, definitely. I've had some really engaging conversations with people who actually, know the stuff that they're talking about. So, what you commented on talking in confidence, that that's so important, but also in what you know and the knowledge that you actually have and what you have actually applied. Because I've had candidates, oh yeah, I know how to use Windows, but you know, Windows Server, what year, you know, what did you do with it? How big was what you were administering, you know, all of these details matter, and they really get me to engage in that conversation and actually listen. And it's that quality conversation. I kind of always repeat this, but the more human you sound, the better, definitely, with these things. So just stay true to yourself and stay true to what you know and what you know how to apply.
Yeah, I would say be relaxed in interviews is going to help you out, right? Because again, it's to make you sound more confident, which again is one of the biggest things. Because honestly, if they think you're lying, you're not telling the truth, then it's like game over, right? Even if you're not. So just come in with that type of mindset, right? That you got this, right? And if they don't choose you, it's their loss, right? Not yours. It's always been my mindset. So just come off confident. My biggest thing towards you. And your confidence comes from displayed excellence. So just do it. Just do it enough time towards where it would be unreasonable that you wouldn't be successful at it. Is what I would tell you to do.
Yeah, I also wanted to add for my questions on the screen, but she mentioned that she was getting her Splunk user certification. I want to encourage you to stay on that Splunk certification requirement, because I do have some Splunk roles right now, and to my surprise, I'm getting very little influx of candidates right now. So I don't know how popular Splunk is. I know that it does have a Splunk course, and you know, from what I know, it's a really valuable asset to have in your toolbox. So stay getting those Splunk certifications, because it's going to be one of those more valuable things that you have as a professional.
Yeah, great. I'm also trying to. I'm going to share. I can share this. Let me see. Can I share the event details? Oh snap! This sold out. But they'll have other ones. So let me share this in the chat. So this is one of the events that I'll be going to this Thursday. But it is sold out. But they'll have another one I think next month though. For those of you that want to, go to these type of events again. The Frisco as a restaurant is overrated for the cost, but it's free, so I'm not gonna complain, right? I'll take free food all day. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that college mindset, even though I'm not broke anymore, so I'll take it. But yeah, there are different events that happen on a weekly and monthly basis for DFW, and there's probably local ones for your city as well. So just look them up. Go on meetup.com or like Eventbrite, and they'll be there. So. Let me see. Are we any other questions? I think that answered a couple questions. So what I like to do now is go over an example, right? So you guys can kind of get to see the full path of this, right? So we're gonna go over a more senior example. My screen's still sharing, thankfully. Let me see.
I want to interrupt you a moment and say that there is a comment here on the.
I think Matt has some questions. What is that?
Oh yes, he does. So Nigel, Boston, what sorts of threats are we analyzing today?
It's a good question. So I would say the top three. I'll be broad, but ransomware. I would say ransomware, nation state, and third party. So just super high level without getting super technical. Ransomware is extorting data and looking for payment. Nation state, think like disruption of infrastructure, espionage, things like that. And then third party is like a compromise through a vendor or a software that your organization may be have ties to. So those are the type of threats that are pretty prevalent right now at a high level.
Matt said he was just trolling, but good job, Nigel. All right.
Veronica also had a comment on one of the last ones.
It seems that everyone is suspecting an AI generated resume. I don't necessarily like that because I want them to know I am human. I've used Splunk for the past 7 years in my role as a cyber analyst, but I do not have any Splunk certifications. So I won't put you on the spot and check out your profile, but I'll do it after the call. But if you use Splunk and you're a Splunk expert, it should be very evident on your profile and resume that is the case. Again, there shouldn't be any guesswork as to what you can do, for example, right? So let me walk you guys through this JD, and then we'll end on questions. So this is a role in Addison. Addison is in the DFW area. I hate driving there because traffic is god awful when people can't drive, but sorry, another point. But this is a senior threat intelligence analyst for Google or Mandiant because they got bought out, right? And the pay range is around 130 to 195K. Again, this is base salary because this is Google. Their stock option bonuses, so this is probably closer towards like $250,000 to 300K more than likely, right? Which again,
yeah, with that's just base salary with incentives and all of that. That's probably getting to like 250, 300K easy.
Yeah. Again, that's extremely good, right?
It's all right. It's all right.
All right. Again, for Nigel, right? Nigel five for first class guys, so
oh my God.
No culture him.
You gotta stop.
No culture him. All right. So, for example, let's break this down. So, we're asking for 7 years of experience, for example, in customer-facing role in cybersecurity, right? So, this can mean technically anything, right? So, you can be technically a consultant like I was. You can be an incident responder. As anything that you've had to interface with the customer can be external or external, right? Which most role for security will fall under that category, right? So anything under that you can put as your experience to count that towards it, right? It's just how you word it. For project management, again, from my consultants, we have experience at this part of the default of our job, all right? And experience engagement presenting toward technical stakeholders and executive leaders, right? Which for our program, we do that for our capsules, for example, right? And then these are some preferred qualifications as well. So network forensics, packet capture, log data analysis, network triage, for example, correlate raw intelligence from sensors, incident response engagements, right? Audiences, presentations, scroll down. So yeah, this role isn't too bad. The requirements for it are not insane in my opinion. It's definitely very reasonable. So definitely for the amount that, again, see, same thing what me and Nigel were talking about, right? 130 to like 195K, that's his base. Yeah, bonus and equity and other benefits as well for it. So again, like around probably $250,000 to 300K, more likely for the total comp for this position. Again, guys, do note this is Google, so they are pretty selective about who they choose. So if you get rejected, don't feel personal. They are Google, right? They're hard to get inside of. But yeah, this role, nothing about this seems like over the top or pretty crazy, right? Especially given the amount they're paying, this is definitely a good fit for people that want to do something like this. So again, strategies that we've used in the past is to reach out to other people that you know that work at Google, right? Or Mandiant, for example, and ask them about the role or ask them to be able to speak towards like a senior engineer or high manager, right? And they kind of go from there, right? That will definitely increase your chances of actually trying to at least get an interview and then go from there, right? Are there any questions about this job? No, and for the last 10 minutes, we'll do questions as well. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. The floor is open to anybody that does have questions. Let's see. Is Wazoo good for, let me see. Aaron puts, is Wazoo good for home labs? I don't know what is Wazoo a SIM, right? Is that a SIM platform, Nigel?
I'm actually not familiar with Wazoo, honestly. I think it's like a
IPS, IDS,
SIM,
or is it
or XDR maybe,
Oh,
something
XDR.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah, might be an XDR.
Yeah, I can't speak towards that either. Aaron, because I've never used the platform before, and neither have any of my clients, so I can't speak towards if it's good or bad. So Matthew says it is a SIM platform. Yeah, okay, yes, it is a SIM platform. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
As well as XDR. Okay. Yeah, I've heard it. They probably reached out to me at a conference or something before.
Last. All right. Octavia puts, what is a recommended home lab to use? That depends. What is your goal, right? It depends what type of job you're going to work in. Depends if you can do application security, product security, vulnerability management, some engineering, detection engineering, threat hunting. It's all going to depend, all right? So there's no like one cookie cutter lab that fits everything, right? There are certain things that we do, right? Like we focus more on SIM, SOAR, XDR, right? So more roles of like threat hunting, threat intelligence, detection engineering, SIM engineering, SIM architecting or cybersecurity architecting, right? Cloud security, more of along those areas is what we focus on. So areas we may cover maybe for platform use would be Microsoft Sentinel, AWS for like CloudWatch Log, CloudTrail, GuardDuty, Splunk, Splunk Phantom or XOR, some Elastic maybe, as well as Jira for project management. So it'll just depend. Let's see. I think Jeanette, if I'm pronouncing that correct, or Jeanette, I believe. I am actually in the GRC field and want to pivot into Intel threat. Do you think the skill set of a GRC analyst is translatable towards threat intelligence?
Absolutely. In GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, like they do risk assessments, right? Essentially, that is prioritizing threats by business impact in my role, right? So I'm going to give you like not a one-to-one, but similar how it is what you do and what I do, right? So risk assessments, for me, that is prioritizing threats and risks as well, right? In GRC, you do a lot of auditing and reporting. In my role, we write threat reports, right? We do briefs. So if you are good at documentation, if you enjoy writing, things like that, that transfers well in threat intel, right? Third-party risk, right? I think in GRC it's called like TPRM or something like that. Also, in threat intel, we analyze our vendors and how they do from like a risk perspective, or do they have any breaches or attacks that's going on, right? So GRC and threat intel does translate well in the skill sets that you probably currently have. So I would definitely recommend either reaching out to me or taking a look at my course. And in my course, I'll give you the foundations of threat intelligence and also how you can market yourself in threat intelligence, as well as, let's say your organization doesn't have a threat intel program. I'll also teach you how to build that from scratch, right? Based off the skills that you'll learn. So GRC actually translate into threat intel very well, if you ask me.
I agree as well. And I do threat hunting. So if you want to learn how to do threat hunting, which is a little bit different than threat intelligence, either or will help you out. Then Veronica.
My bad. I'd like to follow up on that with something from the recruitment perspective. When I encounter a candidate as a foundation with governance and compliance or any analytical role within cyber, I think that always is a good sign, and it really translates into anything, that can be combined with applying, or, if you have side projects, but you're mainly in a more analytical role within cyber, it's really good because it really goes to show, that you can analyze, you can take that a step further, you can think on it, you have a more innovative mind, and you have you have the skill set to actually think about what's going on. So what's, the only difference is that you would be more applying it, I believe, in threat intelligence and just more in a role where you would practice it more. So definitely always, combine that analytical skill or that analytical application that you already have with just a little bit of this and a little bit of that with projects or with at-home environment or with certifications, and you could definitely, delve into whatever you'd like.
Awesome. Very well said, Sophie. And then one of the last questions we'll take is Veronica. I think I need help with writing a better resume for myself. Do you offer anything like that? Directly, we do not. We use a wonderful career service person. Her name is Tiara Swain. She's awesome. She's who I use. She's who our students use. Either her or Henry. So if you need services like that, I'd definitely reach out towards them. They're both on LinkedIn. If you reach out towards them, just tell them that I sent you. Then you'll be taken care of. But directly, I do not. I hate looking at resumes. Personally, that's not my thing. So I wouldn't have the ability to actually fix your stuff.
Yeah, I want to comment on that sometimes, people reach out to me and I'm willing to make some notes, review your resume and send you a document with, I think you should tweak this or you should fix this. Just a little general, more general perspective. So definitely reach out to me, and if I catch your resume, I'll definitely give you, some pointers here and there.
Are there any last minute questions for either one of, yes, any one of my judges or judges or staff? I think today. No. Okay.
Thank you all. I totally understand. Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is, I know you might be on for next one. I don't know. I have you doing two different things. I think the week of first week of July on Nigel, one for the capstone, which added you towards it.
For a judge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. One of the students actually reached out to me. They were like, I hope you show up. I was like, really? Because I'm actually kind of tough. So, but high technical issues. A long question just came in. I'm trying to read it.
Apologies if I'm revisiting this, if I've been covered already. High technical issues. I am threat detection incident response, and I have been searching for roles in NYC using the titles. Cyber incident responder, cyber threat analyst, cyber defense analyst monitoring, intrusion detection response, and junior analyst. I don't see much results. Can you please look if there are new titles I'm not aware of? Let me see. Let's do cyber detection engineer. For the tri-state area, there should be positions there. I'll be very shocked if there's not, honestly. So that's a good question. I mean, yeah, there should. I mean, there's like 30 million people there, so I'll be surprised if there's not positions there.
I'm in New York right now, and what I'd like to, just share with you guys is that the trend I've been within tech in New York is that there's a lot of startups going on right now at the moment. Like a lot of, people with a new idea are just starting up as we speak. And it's kind of the trend I've been seeing, I'd say in the Manhattan area. So if that's something that really you could kind of go there, but really don't know specifics on, where to get these roles. I just know that the trend right now here in New York is tech startups.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say double check. There are positions out there. I'm almost 100% sure, given the market you're currently in. And definitely have a strong network so you can ask different people like what's on the market for that. It'll make it a lot easier. But let me see. I think that should be it. If there's any other questions you guys have for us at all, feel free to reach out towards me, my team, or my staff. Again, Nigel and Sophia, they're both on LinkedIn. Just ping them. If you are watching this, I promise I'll be on a call like in 2 minutes. I'll just close this up.
Also, sorry, not to cut you.
No. Go ahead, Nigel. Go ahead.
When you add me on LinkedIn, please send a message that you came from this live or things like that. That also helped. That's another tip I'll share. When you join Kenneth's program, he'll also tell you that when you reach out and follow people on LinkedIn, you should send them a message. So explaining why you're following them or whatever, where you saw them at, things of that nature. And I'll leave you one piece of advice as well before I go. I've been trying to do that everywhere I go with podcasts is constant elevation requires expansion. Mic drop.
Very good. All right. That's it for today. There'll be another session next week with me, Marquisha, and maybe Nigel as well. So you guys have any questions before, then just let us know. Otherwise, next session will be June 30th, same time. Today's session, it will be covering how to actually get a job using LinkedIn. Like really how to actually get a job and build connections with it. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys for coming on today, and I'll see you guys next time.